to be here. Thank you for your hospitality and to see this amazing golf course. I'll invite you to a football ground at some stage and we can exchange sports.
It's been great being with you, and thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. And you've done a fantastic job with regard to the trade deal. You know, they wanted a trade deal here for years, many years, through many different terms with different people, and you got it done. So I want to congratulate you on that, and it's a great deal for both. It brings unity. We didn't need unity, but it brings us even closer together. I think it's good for both parties. We also discussed, obviously, Gaza. And I think before we get to phase 2, which is, you know, what's going to happen afterwards, we want to get the children fed. We made a contribution a week ago of $60 million, all going into food. We only hope the food goes to the people that need it, because so much, as you know, when you do something there, it gets taken by Hamas or somebody, but it gets taken. But and we're prepared to help. You know, we want to help. It's a terrible situation. The whole thing is terrible. It's been bad for many years, but it's great to hear you feel the same way that I do. We have to help on a humanitarian basis before we do anything. We have to get the kids fed. So we've been sending in a lot of food. A lot of the food that's been going there has been sent by the United States. I spoke yesterday with the president of the European Union, Ursula, who was terrific also on the subject, and she's going to play a big role also in helping us. So we have a good group of countries that are going to help with the humanitarian needs, which is food, sanitation, and some other things. It's very difficult to deal with Hamas. As I said, you know, we got a tremendous amount of hostages out, but it would take place in drips and drabs. You'd get 10, you get 5, you get 2, you'd get 10, 12, we get 12 one time. Many of them would come to the White House, and they were so thankful. But I always said, when you get down to the final 10 or 20, you're not going to be able to make a deal with these people because they use them as a shield. And when they give them up, they no longer have a shield. And the people of Israel feel so strongly about the hostages. Some people would take a different view, but they feel so strongly about the hostages. So that's an ongoing process. Hamas has become very difficult to deal with in the last couple of days because they don't want to give up these last 20, because they think as long as we have them, they have protection. But I don't think it can work that way. So I'm speaking to Bibi Netanyahu, and we are coming up with various plans. We're going to say it's a very difficult situation. If they didn't have the hostages, things would go very quickly. But they do, and we know where they have them in some cases, and you don't want to go riding roughshod over that area because that means those hostages will be killed. Now, there are some people that would say, well, that's the price you pay, but we don't like to say that. We don't want to say that. And I don't think the people of Israel want to say that either, which is pretty amazing. A lot of people would say, just get it done and whatever it is. You could also say speed might be better for the hostages. You go through, you know, with speed, you may have a better chance because they're in deep trouble. They're in deep trouble. You saw October 7th, and you saw what the damage and the horror that they committed. People can't forget that. You know, they tend to forget it, but they can't forget. That was one of the most things I've ever seen. And you just cannot forget that. So we're very much involved. The Prime Minister's involved. I'm involved. And I think I can speak. We just signed a very big trade deal, the biggest of them all yesterday, right? And the European Union is very much involved in wanting to help with really the Palestinians in terms of getting people fed. But the area of Gaza, another way of defining it is the area of Gaza. It's a very troubled place, and it has been for many, many years. It has been for many decades. So it's not like this just happened. This has been going on for a long period of time. So that's it. Our hearts are in the right place. We have some good news because the recent war that you just saw, they just announced, I see, the newest of the 5, now this would be 6 that we've stopped. I've stopped 6 wars in the last I'm averaging about a war a month, but the last 3 were very close together. India and Pakistan and a lot of them. Congo was just, and Rwanda was just done. But you probably know, I won't go into it very much because I don't know the final numbers yet. I don't know. Numerous people were killed, and I was dealing with 2 countries that we get along with very well, very different countries from certain standpoints. They've been fighting for 500 years, intermittently, and we solved that war. You probably saw it just came out over the wire, so we solved it through trade. I said, I don't want to trade with anybody that's killing each other, so we just got that one solved. And I'm going to call the 2 prime ministers who I got along with very, very well and speak to them right after this meeting and congratulate them. But it was an honor to be involved, and that was going to be a very nasty war. Those wars have been very, very nasty. So we've done a lot of good work. We've had great support from the Prime Minister. Anytime we needed help, anytime we needed any form of support, you've been there. We appreciate it very much. And we're going to continue onward. We do have to take care of the humanitarian needs at what they used to call the Gaza Strip. You don't hear that line too much anymore. You don't hear the Gaza Strip. But it is the Gaza Strip, and it's amazing that it's not being handled a little bit differently. We're going to set up food centers, and we're going to do it in conjunction with some very good people, and we're going to supply funds. And we just took in trillions of dollars. We got a lot of money, and we're going to spend a little money on some food. And other nations are joining us. I know your nation's joining us, and we have all of the European nations joining us, and others also have called, and they want to be helpful. So we're going to set up food centers and where the people can walk in and no boundaries. We're not going to have fences, and they can't. They see the food from 30 you would say yards away, and they see the food. It's all there, but nobody's at it because they have fences set up that nobody can even get it. It's crazy what's going on over there. So we're going to work very closely together with your country, a great country. We also discussed inside that we are, there's a whole new thing happening with regard to energy from nuclear. And the Prime Minister's looking at that very strongly, and I know you have Rolls-Royce nuclear plants. That sounds pretty good, right? I love that. What a great brand that is. But you're also doing, that's real starvation stuff. I see it. And you can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved. We did some airlifts before, some airdrops, and the people are running for it. And the Prime Minister is going to help us. They're very effective with that. You've done that before, and for many, they've done that for 100 years very well. So.
Mr. President.
It's not very hard to do, actually.
Mr. President, you say you love Scotland. You're the most Scottish president ever in the White House. Is there a better deal to be done for Scotland, for Scottish industry, in the deal that you've done with the Prime Minister? Whisky, for example.
Well, I have great love for Scotland. My mother loved Scotland, and she loved the Queen. I don't know, I might hurt myself by saying that the monarchists are going to like it, some other people, but she loved the Queen. Whenever the Queen was on television, she wanted to watch. And she would come back religiously. She'd come back to Scotland once a year with my sister Marion, primarily, and sometimes my sister Elizabeth also. But they love this part of the world. And, we're talking about the Isle of Lewis. We're talking about serious Scotland. That's serious Scotland. There was no doubt about it. So yeah, it gives me a feeling, it's different. You go to another country, you have no relationship to it. You get to like maybe the head of the country or something. But it's different when your mother was born here, Stornoway, right in Stornoway, beautiful little place.
So is there a better deal to be done? Is there a better deal to be done for Scotland, for whisky, for example? Because of your love of Scotland, is there a better trade deal to be done for Scottish businesses like whisky?
Well, I assume when we do our trade deal overall, a lot of it comes to Scotland, I hope. Maybe all of it should go to Scotland.
It's a very good deal for the whole United Kingdom, we've already achieved great things under the deal, and we'll achieve even more as we work together.
Mr. President,
a lot of it is going to Scotland. I mean, I do know that, but we're dealing with the UK. but a lot of it comes to Scotland. And, you know, I was very particular. This is a part of the world I want to see thrive. It's going to thrive.
Mr. President, back to Gaza. You talk about Hamas stealing food and stealing aid. What responsibility does Israel have for limiting aid to the region? And if I could ask a follow-up to the Prime Minister, what pressure can be put on Israel, and is that something that you and the United States could work on together?
Israel has a lot of responsibility. They're hampered by the fact that you still have 20 hostages or so. And the people of Israel are very concerned about the 20 hostages. It's very interesting. You could say they could be more concerned about retribution than the 20 hostages, but they really want the 20 hostages to survive and live to make it. You know, many of the hostages came to my office, in the Oval Office, and I was amazed by, I would ask them the question, was there any sign of love? Was there any sign of, when you were a hostage and you have all of these people from Hamas around you, sometimes hundreds, sometimes 10, sometimes 2, but you're a hostage and you're being stored in a pipe. It's not even really, you know, a cave, or it's a pipe, a little pipe. And some said they didn't think they were going to make it because they were losing air. There wasn't enough air, and they'd open up the pipe just in time, but they didn't do it on purpose. They just happened to open it. They got lucky. But I said, did they ever wink at you and say, like, don't worry, you're going to be okay? Did they ever give you some extra food, even if it was a piece of bread? Did they ever give you anything during that time? And some were there for 400 or 500 days now, right? That's a long time, a year and a half, more than that. And not one person said there was any love from anybody. You know, in other words, you have hundreds of people, and you see it in the movies where somebody's a prisoner and somebody's helping. You even see it with Germany, where people would be let into a house and live in an attic in secret. You know, you see signs of stuff. I said, did you see anything like, did they wink at you? Did they say, don't worry, you're going to be okay? I never received, I ask that question all the time. I've never received one answer that said, yeah, they really wanted to help. No, the hatred is just incredible.
But, sir, on the access to food issue, what more can Israel do? And again, to the Prime Minister as well.
Well, I think Israel can do a lot. I will say that Iran, I think, interjected themselves in this last negotiation. Can you imagine the beating they took? We wiped out their nuclear possibilities. They can start again. If they do, we'll wipe it out faster than you can wave your finger at it. We'll have to do that. We will do that gladly, openly and gladly. They've been saying, Iran's been sending out bad signals, I'll tell you. For a country that just got wiped out, they've been sending very bad signals, very nasty signals. And they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. They were talking about things that they shouldn't be talking about. They were interviewed on a recent show, and the foreign minister saying things that he shouldn't be talking about, shouldn't be saying. And I think they got involved in this negotiation, telling Hamas and giving Hamas signals and orders, and that's not good. That's not
Prime
good.
Minister,
I would say, look, we need to get the hostages out. They've been held for a very, very long time, and we must always start from there. But also recognise the situation on the ground in Gaza is absolutely intolerable, and I think that certainly speaking for the British public and myself, those images of starving children in particular are revolting, and there's a sense of revulsion in the British public at what they're seeing, and they know, and we know, that humanitarian aid needs to get in at speed, at volume. Yes, some can be airdropped, and we're working with others, with the US, with Jordan on that, but the trucks need to get in, because that's the only way you can get the volume in, and we do thank the President for the work he's done to try to get to a ceasefire, which we desperately need, but also to put aid in to the region. There needs to be much more of that. We need to galvanise other countries in support of getting that aid in. And yes, that does involve putting pressure on Israel, because it absolutely is a humanitarian catastrophe now. We also need to look beyond that situation to what then happens in the event of a ceasefire, which is desperately needed. And that's why I'm really pleased that we're having a discussion about what a peace plan would look like after that, the component parts of that. And we have to be really clear at this point that Hamas can play absolutely no part in any future governance in Palestine, and and in Gaza. And it's really important that we're clear about what triggered this, who took the hostages, and bringing out Hamas for a terrorist organisation. But I think today the focus has to be on getting that humanitarian aid in.
Mr. President.
Will the UK avoid your pharmaceutical tariffs, and will it happen before August the 1st?
Well, we'll be announcing on pharmaceuticals sometime in the very near future. We have a very big plan on pharmaceuticals. We want to bring a lot of the pharmaceuticals back to America, where they should be. If you look at COVID, it sort of taught us a lesson. We were getting our pharmaceuticals from other countries. We almost didn't make any. We used to make them ourselves, and we're going to want to be making a lot of them ourselves, all of them in a sense. But you also have a good pharmaceutical business. We'll be dealing with you on pharmaceuticals also. And we certainly feel a lot better with your country working on pharmaceuticals for America than some of the other countries that were. With the relationship we have, you would not use that as a cudgel. You wouldn't be using it as a block. But we're going to be announcing sometime very soon, I think, pharmaceuticals are our whole thing. And the companies know. And drug prices are going to be coming down very substantially in the U.S., very, very substantially. And that'll happen very soon.
Mr. President, we can all sense your frustration with Vladimir Putin. Sorry, we can all sense your frustration with Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Do you think he has been lying to you about his intentions in Ukraine?
Well, I don't want to use the word lying. All I know is we'd have a good talk, and it seemed on, let's say, 3 occasions, it seemed that we were going to have a ceasefire and maybe peace, and you divide it up and you do whatever you have to do, that obviously to get to the end. And all of a sudden, missiles are flying into Kiev and other places. And I say, what's that all about? I spoke to him 3-4 hours ago, and it looked like we were on our way, and then I'd say, forget it, and I'm not going to talk anymore. You know, this has happened on too many occasions, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
Mr. President, you have a successful social media site. There are new powers here to censor your site, state-mandated powers.
To censor my site?
To censor your site and Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook.
Truth?
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children, in particular from sites like suicide sites. We've had too many cases in the United Kingdom of young children taking their own lives, and when you look through their social media, they've been accessing sites which talk about suicide and encouraging, if you like, children down that road, and that is what we want to stop. There's nothing about censoring free speech.
But that treats all adults like children.
This country is the proud.
But that can treat all adults like
children. Free speech in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it. We will protect it forever. But at the same time, I personally feel very strongly that we should protect our young teenagers, and that's what it usually is, from things like suicide sites. I don't see that as a free speech issue. I see that as a child protection issue.
We actually passed a bill in Congress, headed up by my wife, actually, which was to pull bad stuff out having to do with children, because it is a problem. But I cannot imagine him censoring Truth Social. That's more of a very political, and it's been a very big success.
It's not going to happen.
And I only say good things about him and his country, so if they censor me, you're making a mistake. I'm going to give my ambassador the job, make sure it's not censored. I had not heard that.
Mr. President, question about golf.
You're a big investor in this area, Mr. President.
I say it?
You're a big investor in this area of Scotland.
To put it mildly.
To put it mildly.
Like this ballroom that we built from scratch.
Do you worry, though, about the risk of increased taxes here? Will that stop you investing? And do you have a message last night on the soccer to the English Lionesses who won the European trophy?
So I think that I have a theory that low taxes bring growth. We just passed a big tax cut bill, the biggest bill in the history of our country, actually. And one big, beautiful bill. I used to call it the great one big beautiful. We got the word great out. But it's actually called the one big, beautiful bill. It's essentially a very large tax cut bill for everybody. And our country's, pretty soon, I think I can say it right now, our country's never done better. We had a country that was dead. It was dead 6 months ago, a year ago. Leaders from NATO, we had a very successful meeting at NATO, your prime minister was there. It was an unbelievable love fest with all of those countries. And they agreed to go 5% and all the things. Very smart to do. But many of the leaders said, you know, essentially, they said, your country was dead 1 year ago. 1 year ago, we had a dead, and we did. We had a dead country. We had a president who didn't know where the hell he was. We had horrible, horrible people running our country. I think they were sick people, actually, sick. You talk about censorship, those are big, that's all they did was censor, and they didn't know what to do. And they had high taxes. They wanted more tax, total censorship, transgender for everybody, men playing in women's sports, everything bad they wanted, and they still do. That's what they still do. That's why they're down at 15% or something, I saw it today, the lowest that the other part of the Democrats have ever been. But no, I find that when you lower taxes, you get growth. I will say this area, and the Prime Minister hasn't been here very long on all fairness. I think he'll be a tax cutter. But I find that as we cut taxes, we did more business. Yeah. You know, in my first tax bill, we cut taxes from 39% down to 22%. And we ended up at the end of the first year, when it was still a little raw, we ended up taking in much more revenue than we did at 39%. It was pretty amazing. And we're taking in a lot of revenue right now, and this was an additional tax cut. So I find, for whatever it's worth, tax cuts are very good.
Mr. President, you moved up the deadline. It's now 10 or 12 days. Is the sanction the same, that you're going to slap a 100% tariff on anybody who does business with Russia?
So what I'm doing is we're going to do secondary sanctions, unless we make a deal. And we might make a deal. I don't know. You don't know. It's we've done so many peace deals. This is the one I started out with, and you know, I know President Putin called me. He wanted to know if I could help him with Iran. I said, no, I don't need your help with Iran. I need your help with Russia. And so that's the one deal that continues to linger. And you know, we're losing 5,000. They're losing. I'm not losing. You're not losing. But 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian kids a week are dying. And that's not mentioning the people that are dying also in towns where, you know, he's lobbing missiles into certain towns like Kiev. And he's got to make a deal. It's too many people are dying. It's a really bloody war. And the 5 is now, they're really telling me that number is obsolete. It's like 7.
That's terrible.
So you have 7,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers dying every single week for no reason whatsoever. So you would think, based on common sense, you would think he'd want to make a deal. We'll find out.
No communications? Mr. President. Publicly, have you had any other, through any channels, conversations with the Russians, reiterating this?
In what?
Reiterating this new pressure and deadline.
Yeah, and we're going to have a, I mean, well, you're the press. I'm reiterating it to you. Yeah, I'd say 10 to 12 days. I'll announce it probably tonight or tomorrow. But there's no reason to wait. If you know what the answer is going to be, why wait? And it would be sanctions and maybe tariffs, secondary tariffs. You know what a secondary tariff is. And look, the Russian economy, I don't want to do that to Russia. I love the Russian people. They're great people. I don't want to do that to Russia, but this thing, they're losing a lot of Russians. They've lost 1 million Russians. And that's the, you know, that's the sons and daughters of Russian families. They leave the house, they go, bye mom, bye dad, and then they get blown away. And Ukrainian too. Look at Ukraine. It's a disaster what's happened there. But it continues to go on. As you know, we made a deal where the European Union is essentially involved, but it's NATO, and we're supplying weapons to NATO. NATO's now paying, because the United States, because of Biden's in for $350 billion, the European nations are in for about $100 billion. Should be the opposite way, by the way, because we have a big ocean in between. Should be the opposite way. But I think that eventually something's going to happen. It should happen fast. So many people are dying. You know, when I settled out with Congo and Rwanda, they lost almost 8 million people. And it just made so much sense. And if I didn't get involved, they wouldn't have done it. They weren't even thinking about settling it. It was just going on forever. And nobody could go into those territories because they'd get killed. They'd get killed. And now they have I hear it's a whole different ballgame. We settled it. This is one that should be settled. Russia, Ukraine. This is one that really should be settled.
Mr. President, on Scotland, Mr. President, Scotland's First Minister has today set out his plans for a second referendum on Scottish independence. Can I get your reaction to that as someone with deep ties to Scotland? And, sorry, Mr. Prime Minister, can I also get your thoughts on that? If the SNP do win a majority at next year's election, then they have a right to hold a referendum, do they not?
Well, I don't want to get involved in your politics. We got enough politics of our own. I will say that I predicted what was going to happen the last time. You remember? I was opening the first course over at Aberdeen, and I was over here, and at the same time, and they asked me that question. I made a prediction. It was the day before the vote, and I made it correct. I like to be correct, but I made a correct prediction. I don't know. I do say that when they made that deal, somebody said that it was, and I remember this very distinctly, I said, could they do this all the time? There was a little bit of a restriction, like 50 or 75 years before you could take another vote. Because, you know, a country can't go through that too much. I don't know the First Minister, but I've heard great things about him. I've spoken to him. I hear very good things about him, and I'm meeting him today. So maybe I'll have a better opinion then.
And let me answer that straightforwardly, because I believe in a stronger Scotland, in a better United Kingdom. And I think that at a time like this, when it's quite clear that there's uncertainty and volatility around the world, the strength of the United Kingdom together is very important for all four nations, very important for Scotland. And that should be our priority, that should be our focus, not on the politics, which feels like the politics of yesteryear now, at a time like this. And I think that you know, the First Minister should probably focus more on his delivery in Scotland than on his constitutional issues, and we might have a better health service in Scotland. But at a time like this, I think the United Kingdom is always stronger as four nations. I think that's better for all four nations. I think that's how Scotland is stronger. Look at the deal that we've been able to do with the United States, a really important deal that we made just months ago. That is what the United Kingdom can do when we act as a powerful set of four nations together, and there are very many other examples.
Mr. President, you toured the Federal Reserve last week, and they are set to meet this week. Do you think your visit has inspired a potential rate cut, or how do you see things shaping out this week?
Well, it's interesting. I did tour it. I toured the building.
Yes.
And if you looked at this building, if you came here like 14, 15 years ago, we've had it a long time. It's been an honor to have Turnberry. But I was on much more opulent walls, ceilings, floors. We had to do this. And we did a very great job. I mean, you see how beautiful it is inside. Everything was saved, everything was preserved. We had ceilings that were in bad shape, they were falling down. You know, it was very old, wasn't properly maintained. Now it's brand new and beautiful, and we saved everything. If you really think here, well, you took a look and you were sort of commenting the coloring. Now this is a brand new building, but if you look outside, it's...
Yes, President Donald Trump